True classics never die, whether due to personal nostalgia, innovation in the space that they're created in, or a blend of the two. Doom, for example, is a game that's been going strong for well over 25 years. Released all the way back in 1993, the core experience still holds up today and is more enjoyable now than ever before, providing a timeless experience. Doom set the expectations for the genre and gaming industry back then, and even in this modern age of gaming. It came back, innovated in its own way, and pushed the IP to brand new heights, revitalizing its community and spawning a plethora of passionate content creators in the process, one of which only uploading once a month because he's fucking lazy. Bottom line, Doom's influence was felt far and wide back in the 1990s, and when it was rebooted in 2016, it yet again showed the entire FPS genre who really was the reigning king. But let's be honest, as fantastic of an IP Doom is, it would have never reached its full potential if it wasn't for a little game that came before it. Wolfenstein 3D, id Software's second major independent game right behind their Commander Keen episode series. Wolfenstein itself is often credited for the creation of the FPS genre, but I'm sure you're all aware of this by now. I'm probably preaching to the choir. As someone who's late to the party, almost like a priest who discovers touching himself isn't exactly a fast track to damnation.
I did it! I just jerked it completely off. I did it all by myself with this hand right here. I grabbed my bilbul like I was strangling a bird, and I smacked it and I smacked it and I gave it a flick.
And while id Software stuck close to his Doom IP and went on to witness massive success from Doom 2016, it relinquished reins of the Wolfenstein series over to Machinegames, who have been responsible for the latest lineup of Wolfenstein games. And let me be frank, I've played the 3 good ones, and personally I'm a fan of every single one of them, except for this one. As far as I'm concerned, doesn't exist.
Disgusting.
That somehow feels very right. But for the other 3, they can all stand on their own and have a very unique feel and atmosphere to every single one of them. From the early hours of infiltrating Castle Wolfenstein, escaping through the insane asylum and fighting in the village and underground catacombs of Old Blood, to launching a prison escape, infiltrating a Nazi base on the moon, and launching an entire assault on Death's Head compound in the New Order, and then finally in the new Colossus, you're launching an entire American revolution in Nazi-occupied America. Each game feels unique, while collectively as a trilogy, whether if you want to refer to it as an official trilogy or not, considering Old Blood is technically a standalone DLC. The games exist as a cohesive piece. They all still feel connected to each other beyond just the story. The gameplay still feels very much in a similar vein. And let me get this out of the way very quickly. If you've never played any of these Wolfenstein games, I recommend you do. I would suggest you play them chronologically, so start off on Old Blood first. The games feel a little off, which I'm gonna get to in just a second, but Old Blood I think is a good place to start because it's basically the experience of New Order with all the fat cut out. It's more of the gameplay. And you don't have these pre-rendered cutscenes that you get in New Order that disrupt the flow and disrupt the storytelling. New Order is a little bit longer, but for lack of a better word, I think Old Blood is a pure experience. But getting back to what I was saying, Machinegames' Wolfenstein games all do one thing incredibly well that both bolsters them and hurts them in the process, and that is the world building and storytelling. The only game that I can think of in recent memory that has been so straightforward in telling a story, both through main events or side dialogue, is World at War. Seeing Germans shooting Soviet corpses in Stalingrad, German soldiers surrendering only to be gunned down in their place, having your comrade get berated by your commanding officer for not treating the Germans like the absolute filth the Soviets see them as. You could argue that a lot of games these days do have shock factors like this both in and outside the Call of Duty name, but with World at War it was presented in such a way that you actually felt the hatred. The opening hours are crawling around your dead comrades, then sneak through the wreckage of Stalingrad to hunt down the German general who Reznov, the only other survivor amongst the dead Soviets, describe as the architect of Stalingrad's misery. And while he goes on to talk about the Germans, you can hear the hatred he has for his enemy.
Mon-Wed in the car is General Heinrich Hamsel, architect of Stalingrad's misery. He is responsible for the cold-blooded murder of men, women, and children. Not just here, but throughout the motherland. This place once echoed with conversations of friends and lovers. No longer. Mark my words, comrade. One day things will change. We will take the fight to their land, to their people, to their blood.
and going from crawling in the burning rubble of this city all the way to fighting in the Reichstag at the end of the game makes it all that much sweeter. You know where and how that hatred has developed and nurtured firsthand, because you've seen all the way back in Stalingrad what the Germans were doing. They were shooting corpses, your city was completely bombed out, and then subsequently you were in every major battle working tirelessly to reciprocate all the death and destruction that they projected onto you. In Wolfenstein's Old Blood, you see an entire castle house an insane asylum. In New Order, you see another insane asylum get cleansed by a Nazi extermination party. You get sent to a concentration camp. You actually get a Nazi turncoat on your side, only to hear he's turned his back on his ideologies because his fatherland and the Nazis who run it murdered his family because his son had a deformity and his wife tried to defend him. In the new Colossus, you get sent to a trumped up Nazi court hearing and sentenced to death. Oh, you can also kick Hitler in the face.
Mr. Redfield, would you step into the box?
A lot of people say that's their favorite part of the whole game. But how World at War set the stage in a way that makes you feel connected to your comrades and what exactly you're fighting for in this holy crusade of good versus evil, Wolfenstein turns the concept of USA versus Nazi Germany. BJ Blazkowicz of being a faceless, unstoppable American hero versus the Nazi monsters is completely turned on its head. The beauty in the Wolfenstein games is just how deep Machinegames goes into trying to create a believable narrative. These games' stories don't completely exist in a vacuum. You see and hear of atrocities that really do fit in with their beliefs and have plausibility to them if the world really did come under Nazi rule. It's not by accident that the resistance is ran by what the Nazis call the scum of the earth. Mentally challenged, the handicapped, the black, the Jewish, the British.
I don't know you, and I'm not looking to make friends.
That last one was a Dischord joke. You should join, link is down below. Meeting these characters, hearing their stories, getting sent to these places and witnessing these events firsthand all help fuel a personal investment that you just couldn't achieve otherwise. If Wolfenstein went the route of Call of Duty World War II and decided to play it safe, it would have faded into oblivion and would have been forced to rely on its gunplay to stay alive in the minds of those who've played it. Instead, they don't shy away from the subject matter. They, on the contrary, embrace it with open arms while making BJ feel human, seeing him damn near unstoppable as an adult only for you to see how vulnerable and weak he was as a child, abused by his father who was a racist man, which also exposes the faults of the social settings of the United States at the time. And this is where these games expertly juggle the main narrative point of igniting a full-on American revolution under Nazi rule while having some of the best character development I've ever seen in a video game.
On your knees. Daddy, I'm your son. Down on your fucking knees. Was it time I was scared of you? Was it time I'd have pissed myself, had a gun pointed at my head? You know what I feel right now? Not a goddamn thing.
Whether through originality, unwillingness to compromise out of fear of turning people off from the brutality, or a blend of the two, there's moments in every single one of these games that you can either recall for tugging at the emotional heartstrings and making you feel for the characters, or moments that make your jaw hit the ground and feel the hatred that BJ and his resistance members have for their enemies. And it's not just senseless killing for shock factor like another game I know of.
Screw it. Let's go.
But this brings me to my next point, the gameplay. The gameplay in all these games have been universally appraised. The gunplay itself across the board is satisfying, only with Wolfenstein's 2 story having BJ going from half a man to a superhero vegetable that's the very thing the Nazis' nightmares are made of. It kills the movement penalty that the other games have, where dual wielding before allowed you to burn through ammunition and exterminate the Nazis twice as fast, but it came at the cost of your movement speed. In Wolfenstein 2, where you have this super soldier suit and then ultimately this fake body that your head is attached to, there's no movement penalty. You are a super soldier in every sense of the word, which is fine unless you're one of those people that hate where Wolfenstein 2's story is headed, then that's going to be a problem. It can also be a problem if you don't really like that gameplay sense, where it does lean a little bit more into the arena shooter or run and gun type of play style. But here's the thing, and ultimately what I'm getting at, Machinegames' Wolfensteins across the board don't know exactly what the hell they're trying to be. It's incredible that they executed on a playstyle that is very viable, whether if you want to clear out rooms silently, stealth does work very well, and the gunplay is fun as hell. You know, going in guns blazing is more often than not the route you're gonna go because the guns in every single game feel amazing. None of them really have balance for leaning too heavily into one play style versus the other when it comes to being a cover shooter or a run and gun type of game. It's a weird blend in a shooter where you have this mechanic where you can lean under doors or lean above or side to side over barriers to pick apart your enemies, while in that very same game have the ability to dual wield pretty much any weapon, specifically in Wolfenstein 2, with the added benefit of any type of movement restrictions completely being dropped off. Throw into the fact that you're going to be mashing the action button on whatever platform you're playing on more times than your average anime fan is smashing their body pillow, and it just feels kind of off. To have your gunplay so addicting and rewarding in one way, only to be forced to divert your attention to momentarily annihilate your action button to pick up health, armor, ammunition in the heat of a fight, it seems lacking in self-awareness. And it's not the old complaint of why do I have to mash F to get health. It's more almost like Machinegames is still trying to find the right blend of paying homage to the old while continuing to pave the way for the new and completely set themselves apart. What do I mean? Well, New Order itself, although a reboot, is technically a continuation of Raven Software's 2009 Wolfenstein game. Caroline Becker, the concept of the Kreisau Circle, and General Death's Head are all present in that game. Reimagined in Machinegames' reboot, other games in the series were all major sources of inspiration to inspire the New Order's combat, with a lot of the previous installments all described as super intense immersive combat. And even with Wolfenstein 3D, although a very basic game, some consider it to have the groundwork of what arena shooters have, which I guess is kind of a stretch considering it just is considered to be the general first FPS, but I digress. The concept of Wolfenstein having roots in being an arena shooter, with Machinegames taking inspiration from what came before while establishing its own unique feel, could possibly explain this gameplay oddity of being split between cover-based shooting or run and gun type of arena mayhem, giving this weird split of not leaning one way or the other that hopefully gets solved in the next Wolfenstein game. It could potentially just be that Machinegames, even though they are technically on the fourth game, if again you want to consider Young Blood, it could just be that they're still trying to find their groove and haven't decided whether if they really do want to lean more one way or the other, or maybe it just is that feel that they're going for, where player creativity and accessibility at handling all these fights however you see fit is really what they're going for. Anyways, I'm curious what you think. Have you played any of these Wolfenstein games? How do you feel about them? What's your favorite one if you have? I just personally wanted to talk a little bit of Wolfenstein today. I ran through all three games, and I don't know, I feel like the new Colossus, even though the gameplay is a little different from the previous games, some people shit on it more than it deserves. Like I said, that game's moments where they delve into BJ's past is one of the best moments in games that I have ever experienced. I mean, even in a passing playthrough all the way back in 2017, I remember watching that cutscene for the very first time. And with Wolfenstein and BJ being such a huge part of not only the FPS genre history, but gaming as a whole, I just wanted to reminisce a little bit. But thank you guys so much for watching. If you guys haven't played any of these Wolfenstein games, you should. Like I said, old blood first though, and even if it seemed like I was criticizing this, I kind of was. Whenever you love something, you should be a little harsher on it.